Yeah, action.
All right, action. Good evening, everybody. This is Mike Mullally, and tonight we have a special Zoom call. It's with my pleasure to introduce Ted McDonald. Okay, Ted McDonald is a P90X2, P90X3. He was also a fellow cast member in 22 Minute Hardcore. And today, Beachbody's released a new program called the 3-Week Yoga Retreat, and this is Ted's baby. And we have Ted here tonight, and he's going to talk about the 3-Week Yoga Retreat. So Ted's the only guy I know who can do crow and do a handstand back into crow. And I asked him that question. I said, will I be able to do that after these 3 weeks? So we'll see what happens. So I'm gonna pass the mic over to Ted because nobody wants to hear me talk. Everyone's here for Ted. So Ted, welcome and thank you, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll give you guys a little quick bio if you want, just a little quick story about kind of how I came to be where I am now, and then try to make that relatively short. And then we can talk more about the 3-week retreat, or if Mike, you have any questions, or because we can leave questions till later. So anyway, long story short, grew up on the East Coast, New York, Long Island, moved to New York City, and partied too much there. So I moved to LA, decided I needed to go to school, went to college, graduated from UCLA actually, and I was proud of that. And then got into entertainment a little bit, decided that it wasn't for me, and put my heart and soul into this big film project, and basically came out with my soul cracked in half. And at the time, I just had a friend who said, hey, you should come try this yoga class, So I said, oh yeah, Sting has done yoga, so why not, right? I've seen him do it in his backyard, so why not? So that was back in 97. So started doing yoga, and after that first class, I loved it. Could barely hold my body up, and I was an athlete growing up. Played football, baseball, lacrosse, and played lacrosse at UCLA, and but I could not believe how I wasn't using any weights, I wasn't using anything but my own body, and literally dripping sweat, shaking. My arms were shaking because I could barely hold my body up as we were doing these simple movements, and I remember thinking, what just happened, and why was I shaking so much, But at the same time, when I finished that class, I really just felt like it was a physical cleanse, emotional, mental, spiritual. I just felt like it was, I just took this deep breath of fresh air and was like, you know what? Everything is right in the world. Even if it's not, it just felt like it was for that moment. And that's what kept me coming back, was just, how good I felt after I actually practiced yoga. So I started going 3, 4, 5 days a week, and I stopped everything else. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped running. I stopped, working out in any way except doing yoga. And I did it over and over and over again. And then eventually, it was probably almost 3 years, close to 2000, that I said, I've been doing this yoga stuff for a while, and I love it, and it's great, and I can hold Warrior 2 for forever, but I feel like I want some cardio back in my life. So I'm going to run a couple miles, a couple times a week. That was it, along with my 3 to 5 times a week yoga practice. And I ran 2 miles, and I was sore for 4 days. It was a little hill. It was a little up, a little down, and then a little back up and a little back down. But I was sore for 4 days, 2 miles, and I was blown away. I was like, oh my, like I lost all memory of running. And then I let that go. The week later, I did the same thing, same 2 miles, and I was sore for 3 days. So then I thought, okay, muscle memory, I knew that at least I could retrain myself, and muscle adaptation and all that sort of thing, right? So then the following week, I had a friend say, oh, hey, you should do this marathon. I was like, no way, man. I'm a yogi now. I don't do marathons, I had this full elitist vibe about yoga, and that it was like the only way to do it, the only way to exercise and the healthiest way and all this stuff. And I said, I'll tell you what, to my friend. I said, I'll go run your 10 miles. He said, this is the perfect week you can do. We're doing fartlek, which is 3 minutes of running, 1 minute of walking. 3 minutes of running, 1 minute of walking. I thought, anybody can do that. So I said, if I can do 10 miles of your fartlek technique, whatever you call it, and I can survive, I'll run your marathon. So 6 weeks later, we're in the car on the way down to San Diego for the Rock and Roll Marathon. It was June 2000, June 4th, I think, 2000. I still have the picture of myself crossing the finish line. It took me 4.5 hours to do 4:35 or something like that. So for me, it wasn't about, doing a marathon fast. It was about doing something I never in my mind ever had any concept that I ever thought. It was never on my goals. It was never on my to-do list. Oh yeah, someday I want to do a marathon. For me, it was that kind of thing was always about Olympians and professional athletes. It was never a little guy like me from Long Island who, was just trying to stay fit. And when I crossed mile 25, the road was closed off. There's big balloons, and I'm running, and I'm running, and I'm running, and I go under the thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no. And then I realized I got 1.2 miles to go. And at that moment, like simultaneously, I start weeping, like tears start coming down my, and I was like, why am I crying? What's going on here? What's going on here? And passing people, and people are passing me. And I finally realized that I could stop at that very moment, and I could walk the rest of the way. I guess we got some motorcycles here in Malibu. But I could stop and I could walk 1.2 miles, and I was going to finish. I was going to finish something that never in a million years did I ever think I could possibly do. And, it brings me chills to this day. I mean, this is going back, 16 years, and I still feel the amazing feeling that I had then when I crossed that finish line, knowing that I just completed something that I said I wanted to do, that I set out for, that I trained for, and that I actually completed, right? And then I thought, man, if I can do this, I can do anything. And that began a big sort of shift. The reason I tell you that story is because that was really the beginning for me of this whole shift of like, well, hey, what else is there in the world that I can't think of in my brain, or that I haven't already thought of in my brain, I could possibly do? And so essentially what happened was the world became limitless, right? I started, anytime I would come up with some block in my life or something, I was like, well, that's only my mind thinking that. Maybe there's some other plan or some other way that I can do it that I'm not thinking about right now, because I never thought I was going to do a marathon and I did it. So maybe I can do this other thing, even though I don't think I can. And so I went from doing marathons to doing triathlons, and I started with a small triathlon. And then the same company that put on this Malibu triathlon put on an adventure race. So an adventure race is essentially, it's a multi-sport event: mountain biking, kayaking, trekking, what they call trekking, which is moving forward on foot, but you have navigation. Sometimes they'll throw in rock climbing and rappelling, but there's a map and a compass. You do it on a team, and they last for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to 4 days, 5 days. So I was always the 24-hour racing guy, 24 to 48 hours. That was like my jam. So I basically became an endurance athlete at that point. So now we're going back to like 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, all in there. And around that time, I also started teaching yoga, and loved teaching yoga. Never thought I would ever teach yoga, but loved it so much that my teacher led a teacher training, got my certification, and then was offered to teach. Someone said, hey, there's a studio over in Venice, you should teach. I was like, okay, sure. Started teaching, got a little private client, another little private client, and kind of the hierarchy as a yoga teacher is you sub around a few classes, you teach at a gym, and then maybe you get a little bit of a following, people like your classes, and then maybe you lead a workshop. And I used to lead these handstand workshops all over town. So people come and learn how to do handstands or inversions. So we do forearm balance and handstands and all kinds of stuff. And then eventually after that, maybe you lead a retreat. So you take a group of people, here in Southern California, we take them over to Santa Barbara, say, for instance, right? And it's great. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, super fun. People enjoy themselves, good food, like-minded people coming together, exercise, hiking during the day, massage if you want it, whatever. It was just really great. And I really bonded with a lot of people. Some of my great friends I've met on retreats, and you can ask Bob there, he knows. And so what that spawned was, hey, wait a second. I'm this kind of endurance athlete guy on one side, and I'm this yoga guy on the other side, and these two worlds seem very conflicted, right? I mean, it's one is super intense competition, endurance, and the other is super peaceful, calm, relaxed, right? Excuse me. And I thought, wait a second, maybe I'm the guy to bring them together. Maybe I'm the guy to say, hey, wait a second, there's some really cool benefits to yoga that would be amazing for runners, cyclists, people who lift weights, people who work out on a regular basis. Because I know as an athlete and a yoga guy what those benefits are. You know, I'll never forget we'd race against Team Balance Bar and Team Red Bull and Team Nike and Seagate and all these pro teams. And we were good. We would finish, there was an elite division, and we would finish in the middle of the pack in the elite division. So you'd had some professional athletes, and we were kind of top of the heat in the amateur, but we were good enough to qualify for that elite division, but we'd never win it. But, but we'd be middle. So if there were 20 teams, we'd be 10 or 11 in the pro division, but we had like we were on the Power Bar elite team, and we had some other sponsors. But I remember this one race where we had already been out 12 hours or 14 hours or something like that. It was getting dark. We started at 6:30 in the morning. It was getting dark. So for sure 12 hours. And I remember riding up this hill on our bikes. We had just finished a 17-mile running trek. And we're coming up, and right up at the top of the hill, we're like, finally we get to the top of this hill. And then it was downhill. And there's a team stopped on the corner, and this one guy's leg is like fully shaking. And it was Team Balance Bar, because the guy wasn't hydrating properly, probably didn't stretch, he was probably just this like super focused, guy who just has one train of thought, which I know is beneficial. But when you're doing a race like that, a long endurance race, or let's say you're living life and you want to live a long life and you want to have longevity, you got to have some balance, and those kinds of things really showed me that I was doing the right stuff, that I was treating my body right, that the stretching was working, that the nutrition was working, the hydration was working, all that kind of stuff, when I could go for hours and hours and hours and hours. So anyway, right around that time was also when I decided to create what is now my company, Adventure Yoga Retreats. So I thought, wait a second, why not do a ski, snowboard, yoga retreat, right? I mean, no reason to, not do it. I mean, we can go to the mountains, we can do yoga in the morning, we can, hire someone to cook brunch, we can ski all day long, and then we can come back, do more, have a nice dinner, same thing over again, right? So that happened in 2005, and we did Mammoth Mountain, we did Costa Rica, I did Mammoth back in, must have been 2007 or something like that. And this guy came on the trip, and this guy, Tony, and I didn't know any, I had no idea, it was kind of a last minute thing. I lived right near him at the time. And I said, oh, hey, Tony, this is Ted leading the retreat. Do you think you might be able to drive? I'm sorry, I know it's last minute, but we had somebody fail, and we don't have room in the car. He was going to come with me, and he's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, man, I'll drive. So like immediately he was like, super nice guy, and all right, okay, great, thanks. So I put someone with him. We all drove up, and we have the whole weekend, super fun. And somebody says over the course of that weekend, hey, I think that's that guy from the infomercial. I said, what infomercial? I don't watch any infomercial. What are you guys talking about? Like, no, I think that's that guy. I think he's got some exercise program or something like that, right? And I was like, whatever, I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, Tony and I, at that point, Tony Horton and I, started just having so much fun during the whole weekend. And we were chasing each other down the mountain just like little kids. And he's a great skier. And at the time I was snowboarding. So I was a really great snowboarder. And we would just have fun like little kids, running down the mountain. And at the end of that trip, he was like, oh, you should come to my house and work out. I'm like, look, man, I'm an endurance athlete. I don't work out at home. It's, I do yoga and I swim and I bike and I run. That's it, And he's like, no, you should come over. I said, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to, it's so funny. And then I said, all right, I'll tell you what, I'll come over. Sure, fine. And I forget exactly the whole timing of it, but I remember we did plyo at his house, which happens, on Monday nights. And I swear it was, again, so I did this workout, and And I like just about killed myself on this workout. And I was sore for 4 days. Like I could barely sit down. It was crazy town. And I thought, oh man, this is exactly what I needed. And I've been doing that routine ever since. Whenever I can make it over there now, because of Madison, I don't make it over there as much, but for the last 8-9 years, so he and I just became great friends. And he used to come to my class on a regular basis, and then I'd teach out here in Malibu, and we would just hang more and more and more. And it was 2010 actually that I finally said, "Hey man, we should lead a retreat together." So he said, "Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it." I said, "All right, well, I'm planning this one to Italy." He's like, "Oh, he's like, I've never," and this is a funny story. I don't think he's ever told us. Maybe he has, but so he's like, "I've really never been out of the country before, like to Mexico and Canada, but he's like, "You're going to help me get out of the country." I said, "Sure, man. And then by this time I had been to India, I had been to Africa, I had been to Fiji, I'd been like all over the place leading retreats. So for me, I was excited to go to Italy, and Italy's a civilized place, right? So I didn't think there would be any problems. So he brings Shauna, his now wife. At that time, he was like, "Oh, I don't know, should I bring Shauna?" I said, "Of course you should. Why not?" Right? And I had actually just met my wife at that time. She didn't come on the trip, but we had met already. Funny enough. Anyway, so we get to Rome, and I plan a couple days in Rome. And before we go to Tuscany, where we meet the rest of the group, is 25 people, and amazing week planned of visits to Tuscany, visit to Florence, visit to Siena, little Monteriggioni, a little castle around there. And so I thought we'd spend a couple days beforehand in Rome. We get to Rome, and Tony is like barfing. He's like sick from traveling. He like I don't know. He must have been so nervous that he was leaving the country for the first time. I don't know. I'll have to give him some from next time. But it was really funny. So he didn't even leave the hotel in Rome. He did not see Rome at all. We went to Tuscany. We had an amazing retreat, and then ever since then we've been leading retreats together. So we do our Jackson Hole retreat on a regular basis, and then I forget exactly when P90X2 happened, but he said, "Hey, look, you're my yoga guy, so I'm doing this new program. It's kind of a follow-up to my last program, and I want you to help me create the yoga routine." So I said, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So we talked about it, and a lot of the issues with P90X was that it was too long and too hard. So they wanted to make it about 60 minutes. I think it turns out being 65 minutes or something like that. And so that basically he and I kind of created that together. And that was the first one I was in. And then P90X3 rolled around, and he's like, "Hey, look, I just need you, Stephanie's doing it, but I just need you to kind of help and just kind of make sure it works well." I said, "Yeah, sure." So we did that. And then obviously 22-minute hardcore now, and there's no yoga in there. I'm sorry. But there is the 3-week yoga retreat. So anyway, that's kind of, sort of where I came from a little bit, kind of how I met Tony and how we got to today actually is kind of interesting. So so years ago when Tony and I first met, he said, "Man, you're great. You should have your own program. I got to connect you with these people over at Beachbody, and you should have your own program." So I said, "Okay, great." So I went there, and this is interesting, I think, for people who are building a business, because I met with Laura, and I met with Jonathan Gelfand, the main guy, and I met with a bunch of the main attorney, and I met with a bunch of the employees there, and they set up a time for me to teach a class. And I went, and this is before they're in the headquarters they're in now. So they were in Beverly Hills before. And so I taught the class, and they were like, "Oh, this is great, this is great, this is great." And they said, "Well, we'll let you know if we're going to do a yoga program." So nothing. And then Tony, okay, P90X rolls around, P90X2, rolls around, and I help out with that. But still no yoga program. P90X3 rolls around, still no yoga program. And hardcore 22 hardcore rolls around, still no yoga program. But of course, I'm like, "Look, man, I'm, Tony and I are friends, and so I'll do whatever you want. Just tell me what to do and show up, and I'll be happy to help wherever I can." And at his wedding, which was last fall, almost a year ago, actually, it was October, I got an email as we're driving back from Laura saying, "Hey, Ted, we're finally," and Laura's the director of development who from Beachbody, who's been with the company for 10, 11 years. She's based out of New York. And she said, Ted, we're finally doing a yoga program. We want you to come in. And that was an 8-year span, 8 or 9. I guess 8 years. I think it's been about 9 now, 9 or something like that. And so I've thought about that over and over and over again, because so often we meet somebody or we do something, or, just as simple and basic as like making a connection with somebody who you hope is maybe gonna, become a client, and then nothing pans out for a year. And you're like, wow, it took me a year to make that. Well, it took me 8 years. 8 years to finally have something like this. And it wasn't something that I actively pursued. What I did was I continually just was authentic to my own self. And I think that's such a huge, huge thing for me. And part of the reason I tell you guys this story is because it is my story, but also because it's a reminder for me to continue to be authentic to who I am. And ultimately who I am is just someone that, loves life and wants to live a great, healthy life and share that with as many people as I possibly can. And, regardless of whether, something takes me 8 years or 10 years or 40 years, whatever it is, as long as you're kind of living your truth, I really do believe that good things will happen, even if it's not quite in your brain on a regular basis that they're sort of coming up. So anyway, I'll end my little story there. And then if you want, I can talk more about the 3-week retreat specifically if you want, and then open it up to questions.
Yeah. Authentic to yourself. I just like
What's that?
Authentic to yourself. That's beautiful. I'm just writing a couple things down. Ted, if you wouldn't mind just kind of like maybe just go over the program just a little bit, and then talk about who this program really targets. And then maybe we'll go for the questions from there, because that just hearing that alone, I know we'll answer a couple of my questions, but I'm sure there's others out there who have questions that will evolve around the program itself. And like I said earlier, I already took a peek, and I love the way it's laid out. And just maybe break down the week by week and talk about your week in particular.
Yeah. So basically this is another thing. It went through all kinds of different iterations, and what do we call it, and how long is it? 30 days, 21 days? Should we make it longer? How many teachers should there be? How many, who's going to teach what's going to happen, and all this stuff. And eventually we came up with, the 3-week yoga retreat. And we really felt like from, the creative side, me being part of that team, that beginners were really who we wanted to tackle for yoga, because yoga is kind of such a weird thing, and it kind of has this connotation, and some people think it's a religion, or it's kind of a weird thing, or Carl and the other at Summit was saying, like, sometimes you think chanting and oming and all that kind of stuff, and it can be that, but it doesn't have to be that. And I think that's, to me, if it was that, I'd be out. But I love the physical benefits. I love the mental part of it. I love the relaxation part of it. But so part of what we wanted was, first of all, to just kind of get rid of all of that stuff, and not have any connotation, any belief that you have about yoga, just let it go for the moment, because there's 3 of us on a mat, totally white background. It's like, it's funny, Carl was on the set. I saw his Instagram story today, and he's like, I'm in heaven. He's like, no, this is where we shot the 3-week yoga retreat. It was really funny. Anyway, so the whole idea is to start with the basics. So the first week is a guy named Vitas, and Vitas teaches the first 5 days, and those 5 days essentially they kind of build on each other, right? So hold on one second. You're gonna go upstairs? Okay. All right, I'll be up there shortly. All right. Madison's bedtime. My little 6-month-old. So essentially, Vitas teaches the basics in the beginning, where you have really basic stuff happening, and there's really not that much flow in the beginning. There's not a lot of weird movements, and and just really basic stuff, talking about breathing, talking about hand position. And you'll learn a lot in that first week. Honestly, you could do that first week over and over and over and over again. But what we decided was to make the first week, and then there's 5 days. So Vitas teaches the first 5 days, and then the 6th day and the 7th day is this woman, Faith. And Faith teaches a relaxed day on day 6. And day 7, she has 3, what they're called 10-minute take times, or take 10, I think they're called. And so they're 10 minutes just so that you can do something every single day. But the way it's laid out, as you saw, Mike, you can do any of the programs any day. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you're going to check a box and say, I did, the 3, you could do day 1, 21 days if you wanted, right? I mean, that would be boring eventually. So, but the point is, it all builds on itself. So you'll learn for those 5 days, and then you get to relax on the 6th day, and even a little bit more relaxing on the 7th day. Then week 2 is Elise. And she's the blonde, and she's fantastic. And she builds on what you learned in the first week. So it is a progression, actually. So she teaches, again, 5 days, and then you have the relaxed day with Faith, and then the take 10 on the Sunday. So it's kind of built to start on Monday, which is why I know a bunch of challenge groups, and Beachbody's just opened up a public Facebook group because they want a bunch of people to get involved and do it. And we're going to start on Monday. Anyway, so Elise's second week, just think of that's a step up. All right. So that's her 5 days, and then Faith. And then my week is what they call progression week. So I think you have the introduction week. I kind of forget, or the foundation week, and the expansion week. And then mine is the progression week. So I get there, and that's where we have fun, you guys. So I get there, and I get to take it up a notch. I get to turn it up a little bit. So we're not actually doing any handstands, Mike. I'm sorry. So you're not going to be doing crow to handstand on this one just yet. You have to go back to X2 and 3 for those. But the future is bright, I think. So anyway, so my week, again, it's all built on Elise. So Vitas does the first week, then Elise does her second week, and then my week builds on everything you've already learned. So I get to link a lot of the stuff together for you. So and there's always a modifier. So every single one of those, except Faith on the weekends, it's just her. But the rest of us all have modifier. I think her take 10s. It's just her. But her Saturday classes, all 3 of us are in. That's another cool thing, is we are each other's cast for this go around. But anyway, as far as who the ideal client is, to be honest, I really feel like the ideal client is anyone who's kind of interested in some of the benefits about yoga, who is willing to just say, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. And whether, regardless of what you think about it, put all that aside and just say, you know what, I'm just going to get some basic. I was thinking about this the other day. If you think about yoga as a very simple body weight movement exercise class, that's it. I mean, all you're doing is moving your body. You're breathing. Now, there's a couple other things. You're going to have to breathe. And the idea is to breathe and move at the same time. So it kind of becomes a little bit of a moving meditation in a way, because you're inhaling up, exhaling down, right? So you kind of get into this rhythm. It becomes rhythmic, a rhythmic flow. Now, it takes time. It took me years to figure that out. And we're going, okay, you're going to get it in 3 weeks. So don't feel like you're going to be yoga masters at the end of 3 weeks, but you definitely will have a great foundation. So you'll be able to go to any class, anywhere around the world. You'll understand the foundation of yoga, the basic poses, the breathing, and actually what to do. And what, of course, we're all hoping is that you guys love it so much that you want more of it. Because as you can see in P90X2 and 3 and some of the stuff that I do, and there's a whole world of stuff that we can actually do and have fun. And I think what they wanted to do first here with this one was just make sure that everybody had it and kind of felt safe doing it, and then start to do more stuff after.
That's all. Oh, good. Awesome, Ted. Yeah, I can say, I mean, for the sneak peek, I did the sneak peek back on the 18th, and I did it on my back deck. I mean, granted, here in New England, cold weather's coming, but it was great to do it outside and fresh air. And it felt to me, doing that sneak peek felt like almost like a vacation from my workout, but I still felt like I had that workout done. One question I have is, with this program, do you feel that you can still go ahead and do your daily activities or possibly integrate this with other fitness, whether it's, say, another Beachbody program or, say, mountain biking, hiking, other outdoor activities?
Yeah, so I definitely do. So it just depends on you, right? I mean, it depends on the person. So if you, like I said, Mark Briggs, and you were saying you felt like you got a workout from that first day. And so I would say it depends. I know a lot of people just, work out a ton and want more and more and more and more. So my recommendation for you then would be to start with a heavier workout and end with the yoga, because typically the yoga is going to kind of stretch you out a little bit toward the end. So you're going to loosen up what you just tightened up from all the intensity, right?
Yes.
So if you feel like you need it. Now, a lot of yoga classes, especially ones that I teach here, I own a yoga studio here in Malibu, and most of my classes are minimum hour, 15 minutes, if not hour and a half. So, I mean, you could do 22-minute hardcore followed by, a 30-minute 3-week yoga retreat, and there's 52 minutes. And you're going to feel amazing after, because you got a super intense workout and you also got, your 30-minute kind of cool down, even though that's, it's core, strength, stretch, all the different titles. But I would say absolutely. I mean, on the other side of things, I really feel like one of the perfect pairings, and this was actually discussed in our, creative team meetings prior, is it's the perfect complement to do the ultimate reset. So a lot of people, a lot of people, you won't do it because you're not supposed to exercise. It's supposed to be a cleanse. And so this is the perfect opportunity where you can do 30 minutes of yoga each day. And it's not super intense. It's kind of basic, but you're still moving. And then you get to follow that whole program. So I think for, beginners or people who are really tight or just kind of coming to it and they don't necessarily want all that intensity, it's perfect. It's enough. And I think on the other side of things, if you want the intensity first, do it first, and then cool down with the yoga. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let me just go to gallery view here for a second. Oops. Okay. All right. So does anybody have a question for Ted? You guys can go ahead and unmute yourself. If you got a question, please feel free. there was a couple of questions put in the chat here, so I'm just going to go over them real quick. But if you have a question you want to ask Ted, please unmute yourself and feel free at this time. I'm just going to go over the questions. Who's going to be first? Bob, ask a question.
Ted, I got a question for you. So
Sure.
I got to admit, P90X was the gateway to yoga for me.
Wow.
Until that, I never even considered doing yoga, and now I go to a yoga studio 5 to 6 times a week. So, and thinking about the people that I'm there with, obviously there's people at different levels, but and I do Ashtanga, Vinyasa, and Rocket Yoga. Does this stuff, even though it's basic, does it help build towards a lot of upper body strength for getting to that level where people will be able to do better forearm inversions and stuff like that on the road?
Yeah. You tell me your name again.
Rob Snyder.
Can I see that somewhere? I don't know if you can see that. No. Anyway. Hey, Rob.
Up there at the top.
Because I see the names up there, but not down there. So I like my stuff in the 3rd week is a lot of flow. I'm doing a lot of vinyasas. Like I'm telling people, hey, look, take a break. Don't do all these vinyasas. So a vinyasa is essentially a movement that you go, I think Tony does them for sure in the yoga stuff, but let's just think about it this way. If you go from the top of a push-up to a half push-up, right? So you're lowering down so your arms are 90 degrees, right? Like that. and then you push up again. You sort of roll over your toes. You push up again so your arms are straight. That's what they call upward facing dog. And then I think Tony does them in one program. He calls them 2 dog push-ups or something like that. But anyway, that is what they call in yoga. They call it a vinyasa. It's just this little sequence of movements that's quick. And we're doing, I don't know, through this whole program, probably 15 in one session, like in one 3-hour session. So 30-minute session, 3-hour session. So that kind of stuff is for sure going to build your upper body. Absolutely 100%. And if you're practicing Ashtanga, and for everyone listening, Ashtanga is a very specific sequence of poses. So without getting, too deep in the weeds here, the yoga that is in this country now sort of came over initially back in the late 1800s, but then probably in the 60s really is when the poses became more popular. And there were 3 main disciplines. Ashtanga was one discipline. This guy Iyengar had his own discipline, and this guy Desikachar had his own discipline. And these people all went to this yoga school back in India. So they each kind of had a specific thing, right? So I don't know. I guess it would be almost like if it was all dance, and there was ballet, hip hop, and tap, or that kind of thing, right? But you're still moving your body. So in Ashtanga, you're doing a lot of that sequence, a lot of those vinyasas. So all the stuff that you'll learn from the 3-week retreat is really based on that kind of stuff, and we're just kind of breaking it down and putting it together. As far as will you build enough strength to start to go upside down and do all kinds of arm balances and things like that, we don't do any arm balances yet. But in the 3-week retreat, there's nothing like that at all. Now, the basic arm balance is downward facing dog, right? So your downward facing dog is an arm balance if you look at it that way. But I would say that you are building upper body strength, but we're not going upside down. Okay. So will it help you? Yeah, for sure.
I'm saying like a lot of the people that are in my classes, they struggle with the hop backs and the hop throughs. And I'm thinking this might be a great sort of way for them to come in and build that strength, on their own.
So just so you know, so we just start to beginning jumping forward. Okay. So we actually don't jump back. We jump forward at the end.
Okay.
Start to jump forward at the end. It's a little easier to jump forward than it is to jump back. So a lot of times people jump back and then they'll kind of push their arms straight and then they turn their heads kind of like that. And that's good. It's a defense mechanism to protect your face because you feel like you're going to crash on the floor. But until you build that core strength to be able to lift yourself up really slowly and gently float back, it just takes time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Awesome. Ted, just looking at the questions here, there's 2 main ones. Jackie's doing this program with her son, and he's playing football. And how would you personally think you would motivate a 13-year-old teenage boy to do this program, to explain to him that this will help him with his football game?
Well, believe me, I wish I started yoga when I was 13, man. I don't have a 13-year-old. I have a 6-month-old. But what I think is the best way to get to someone like that is to just tell them that it's actually going to make them better. I work with professional cyclists. I work with a lot of professional athletes, but every year I go to Spain and I work with the Bmc Racing Team. So if any of you are cycling fans, you'll know Bmc. The last 5 or 6 years, they've been a very top level team, Tour de France. In fact, one of the guys on the team, who's a friend of mine, just won the gold medal in Rio on first day, the men's road race. A guy named Greg Van Avermaet. And super nice guy, totally deserved it. He's just a great guy from Belgium. But anyway, these guys had this idea. They were like, "What? We have to do yoga? We're cyclists. We don't want to do yoga." And in the cycling world is very steeped in old traditions, and the only thing that you're supposed to do to become a better cyclist is ride more and dope, of course. No, just kidding. But it's just ride more and ride more and ride more. And that's what they think. And there's not a lot of cross training in that sport. And I come in And I'm like, look, you guys, I'm an athlete. I'm an endurance athlete. I might not be as fast as you. You guys are professional athletes. But I guarantee you that what we're doing here is going to help your performance. Just give it a try. And it's so funny because I had such kickback in the beginning. So camp typically is like spring training, right? So spring training, they have, for baseball, for football, all that sort of stuff. It's the same kind of thing for cycling. The season in professional cycling goes from January to October. So I'm in Spain usually a couple of weeks in December and a couple of weeks in January. And so I remember this one guy was like, I don't want to, he's like grumbling about it. And by the fourth day, it was the fourth or fifth day, I forget exactly, but the owner of the team took all the staff to a soccer game. This was in Valencia, Spain. So we got to see Real Madrid play Valencia. Those of you that are soccer fans, that's a big deal, just to see Real Madrid play. But anyway, so we didn't have yoga that particular night. Get back late. Next morning, the riders did not go because they're professional athletes. They're not allowed to go out at night. So they're not supposed to go out at night. So the next morning we wake up and then these guys, they go for a ride. He's like, hey man, I missed my yoga. What happened? I missed my yoga. He's like, I love it now. My body feels so much better because, I sleep better and my body feels better in the morning because of the yoga. So I think Jackie was asked the question and I would say to just see if somehow you can get him to give it a try, knowing that as an athlete, because if he's playing football and he's passionate about football, that it's going to help him prevent injuries. If he does get a little bit hit or a little bit sore from something, it's going to help him recover faster. And ultimately, should he decide to make this a big, long career, his career will be much longer because of a regular yoga practice, without a doubt.
Awesome. All right, I got this question. I know I'm going to probably knock out about 5 or 6 birds with one stone, me included. All right, so I'm dealing with a couple injuries right now. There's some people here in the group who are dealing with injuries. Mm-hmm. Doing hardcore and other P90X workouts for the last 14 months straight. This is, I personally am looking forward to this as a 3-week kind of just reset without doing the ultimate reset.
Right.
People with injuries. This will definitely, your opinion, I mean, I think you kind of already answered the question, but this is a great way to heal those maybe tendinitis and, stretch, torn muscles or pulled muscles. Will 3 weeks of yoga, or do you think maybe sticking out in week 1 for a while, or just go through the whole 21 days?
No, I mean, look, so here's the other thing about injuries and yoga. So one of the things that I found in yoga is that you create this whole new body awareness. So, Rob Snyder, if you're practicing 3, 4, 5 days a week, you begin to understand your body in a different way. And so you learn, like when I first started practicing yoga, I was smoking cigarettes. I mean, I was like drinking coffee on a regular, it was like I was a mess. And I started doing yoga and I just started feeling better. And I was like, gosh, I feel so good now during yoga. Then I didn't want to really do anything bad before yoga class. And then I felt so good after yoga class that I didn't want to really do anything. I didn't want to just go eat unhealthy. And so what happens is that time grows because you become more sensitive because you're moving your body in a certain way. There's a whole science behind like how it works and it opens up the energy and all that sort of stuff. You don't have to worry about any of that. But what I would say is, I think this is the benefit, like the takeaway, is that you're going to start to understand your body better. So if you have an injury, one of my first teachers used to say, injuries are our best teachers because they teach us how to treat ourselves. And I think that's something that happens with all the intense stuff is like, we're like, oh, we have to go one more. We have to push. We have to get a bigger weight. We have to yesterday we did this. Whereas in yoga, it's not about that. Yoga is amazing because you can kind of mold it to your own self, right? So if you have an injury, you're dealing with an injury, it's great because, especially the 3-week yoga retreat specifically, because there's always a modifier. When the 3 of us are there as cast members, there's always a modifier and there's always a camera on that modifier. So I'm the modifier a lot. They were like, Ted, you're a great modifier. So for the first couple of weeks, they would put me in the modifier. And I'm always using blocks. I'm using a strap. I'm taking things a little bit easier. So you definitely use that modifier, and you don't need blocks or a strap. You can use books. You can use your Shakeology bottle. You can use a pillow if you know what I mean. You can use all kinds of stuff that you have. You don't have to go out and buy blocks and straps or anything. But the point ultimately is that you'll begin to create this awareness. And what I would say in general, I always tell people injury-wise, there's two schools of thought. One school is you have an injury, you push through it. The other school of thought is that you let it rest. And I'm a firm believer in active recovery. So it used to be, I sprained my ankle years and years ago, and they were like, oh, elevate your ankle and ice it and get off it and rest. Well, now it's different. Now the first thing you're supposed to do is put like a big neoprene sleeve on the ankle, to tighten it up so that there's compression on the ankle. And then you're supposed to stay on your ankle and walk gently, but you're supposed to keep some blood circulating through the ankle joint. And so that's my philosophy. So if like right now I have a little shoulder thing, and I've been dealing with this for like 6 months. So what I've done is I won't do as many vinyasas, right? I'll take my time. I'll skip one. A lot of times I'll go down and I'll do kind of a double push-up. Well, I'll skip the double push-up, and my shoulder's been getting a bit better, and I'm starting to feel a little bit more. But I'm aware of it all the time, and I'm not just saying to myself, okay, I'm just going to push through this. So it's that sensitivity and that body awareness that I think you'll develop during the program. And it's great because the first week is really basic movements. So if you notice something that hurts, skip it. You know what I mean? Give your body some time to rest. Give your body some time to heal from that, because the body is amazing. I mean, the body is like, a pharmacy. It's like the most amazing pharmacy that was ever invented. So the body will heal. And here's the other great thing about the 3-week yoga retreat, but yoga in general, is that by the way you're moving your body, you're creating some warmth and some heat and some circulation. And by doing that, you're circulating the blood obviously healing. So that blood's going to go to a specific area, and hopefully you'll heal a little bit better and a little faster.
Awesome. Couple other questions here. Paul asks, does the program build on the spiritual and mental side of yoga as well as the progression, or is it just more of the progression of the movements?
Yeah, it's more progression. Wait, say that again.
Does it work on the mind and body kind of progression as well, or just mainly the actual movements with yoga practice?
So we, like Elise, for instance, in the second week, she's great about kind of, talking about inspirational stuff and kind of I would say it would be like practical spirituality, if that makes sense. It's not any kind of, esoteric spirituality. It's more like, do this and be inspired to go live your life better. It's that kind of thing. For me, I'm always telling people to take breaks, because I feel like our tendency, now I'm doing, harder stuff, but I'm saying take breaks, right? Because I think we're used to doing the intense stuff. So it does progress physically. And I think while we're not talking about any kind of spiritual stuff at all, as far as like, the yamas or the niyamas, or like where yoga stems from originally and all that kind of stuff. And so we're not talking about anything like that, but I think it's just kind of basic, practical, let's just call them like, wisdom, like tips of wisdom and that kind of thing, like practical kind of life tips. I would say that would be more the mental part.
Great. And Jackie also asked a question about nutrition guide. I didn't really peek that much. I don't know if anybody noticed if there was a nutrition guide that was also included with the 3-week yoga retreat.
Oh, you know what? I haven't even found out yet. So they haven't told me. So I know if I'm not sure if they did. I know they asked what my favorite meal was, because they wanted to name one after me. They were like, what? So I gave them my meal, but someone says no nutrition guide online.
No nutrition guide.
So that might be coming later, and they might have a meal plan with it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Yeah.
I bet you, like you said, man, I bet you they're going to really throw the reset in there, or a modified reset.
Yeah.
I think that 3rd week of the reset would be a little difficult with the intensity, I remember when I personally did it, I was like, I would stand up and I would almost pass out. And, I think they need to tweak the caloric intake depending on your size with that program. But maybe that'd be really cool to see that in the future.
Yeah.
Message with the reset. Come on, Mike. Get on board.
Not enough calories. Not enough calories. Bikram Yoga. Are you familiar with it?
Yes, I am. Absolutely. I've done it only a couple times because I'm not a huge heat guy. So for those of you that don't know, Bikram Yoga is, I think it's 23 or 28 of the exact same poses you do every single class, and you do them twice on each side. And a lot of people love it. I mean, this guy Bikram, he's a little wacky apparently from what I read in the newspaper, but apparently a lot of people love the sequence. And I think it's a lot of, because the room is heated to 104 degrees. For me personally, I don't, I'm hot. Like I'm the guy who's, I like the fan on. I like the air conditioner. I like coolness. I got my leg out of the blankets at night, and I'm just always warm and hot and sweating. So for me to go work out in a sauna type environment is just not fun, especially because in a regular yoga now, at my studio, I'm always heating the room to 75, 80. So it's warm for sure. But 95, 100, 105 to me is a little bit too much.
Cool. That question was asked by Lisa, and Denise wants to know what your favorite meal is.
So the favorite meal that I actually submitted is a salad that I have on a fairly regular basis. It's a roasted veggie salad. So I just put lettuce and then I'll lettuce. Roasted broccoli, roasted cauliflower, and then chia seeds, hemp seeds, carrot, avocado. Once in a while, I'll throw on some goat cheese, salt and pepper, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, vinegar, and then I mix it all up, and I just love it. Salt and pepper, too. So it's basically just veggies, more veggies, and some chia seeds, hemp seeds, little cheese, and yeah. But it's great. I love it. I love it. I could eat it most every day.
Awesome.
And then if I needed to, like if I'm training hard or whatever, then I can always throw on a piece of salmon or something. I'm not a meat eater myself. I gave that up a long time ago, but I do eat fish and eggs. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Great questions, guys. Does anybody have any other questions for Ted? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I don't have any questions, but you're awesome, Ted, and I cannot wait to start on Monday. So I'm so excited.
Excellent.
And I'm actually looking forward to week 3 because I'm all about a challenge. So, and I'm sure there's more coming down the pipeline. So I'm excited for what else you have in store for us. So thank you so much for creating this program, and really excited to get started next week.
Cool. Yeah, great. I love
got some people interested too, which is great. And, you forget about those people who, love yoga or don't really like intense exercise, that this is an option. And it's great that it's on demand. So for those who aren't on demand, that is an option to get them to connect to that as well. So
totally. No, it's perfect. And I mean, to me, on demand is like the best deal of the century. I mean, it's so, it's so good. And
the future.
And, what's that?
It's definitely the future, and you can see how really,
for sure. Well, good, Chris. I'm glad to hear that.
I think that's a good combo with the two. Not that I'm really excited about it, so I'll be very open and honest with you right now. I'm getting ready for the reset. So I almost sipped on the call and I said, no, I can't do it, but I'm going to just tell you like it is. But I'll be ready for Monday. So thanks.
Right. You're welcome. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, I will.
I know, Ted, I'm doing it with her too. So we're going to be keeping each other accountable. But
very good.
Well, when they announced it at Summit, we thought, how perfect is your program to do with the reset?
Yeah, exactly.
So we were like, we're in. Let's just do that, and we're going to just chronicle it and just share what our results are. And I think
love it.
Really cool.
Yeah.
We'll tag you a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's totally fine. Like, if you guys have questions along the way, I was telling that to Mike. Like, I'm here. So I typically have classes and clients and stuff in the morning, but then my afternoons are pretty free to just kind of do my own stuff and get in there and answer questions and help and all that. So for me, of course, I want the more, because I've gotten so much out of yoga. The more people that can, find those same kind of benefits, to me, yoga is the perfect complement to anything that you do. So whether you're at home chasing around a bunch of kids, or whether you're a professional athlete or a stressed out hedge fund manager, or, whatever it is, it's just going to be like a big sigh of relief, and just be like, oh, I feel great. And then you can continue to go do what you love to do.
Ted, I know you and I talked about this yesterday with like challenge groups and stuff like that. Brother, I think you're going to be very busy these next 3 weeks and on. So I know you said like Carl's doing a 3-week yoga retreat challenge group, and you said that you're going to be pretty much an active member in that group. So again, anybody who sees that, who plans on starting Monday the 5th with a lot of us, jump in that group. And that way you'll definitely have that great access to Ted and other people who are doing the program as well. So
yeah, and I think I probably will start my own group too. So if I do that, Mike, I'll let you know, and then you do that, because I'm going to do it along every day. So I can just pop in and out of a few different groups.
Yeah, so that'll be really neat, man. That's again, I'm so proud. I'm so happy and proud for you. And I took your class at Tony's wedding, and I mean that was a whole different view of yoga. I mean, like I think Rob said it. P90X was the gateway for me doing yoga, and Tony's yoga, and maybe a little bit of Autumn Calabrese's yoga is all I'm used to doing, and that was just a nice version to see a different side of it as well.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward. It's funny. I was thinking about that, because I know we don't have really, it's just the four of us. We're all new to Beachbody from this side of it. So, as far as I know some of it through Tony, thankfully, but the other 3 teachers, we're all trying to figure out so what are we going to do? We're hoping that they'll integrate us into Summit, they'll integrate us into the other different events that they do, and we'll actually be able to really it'd be amazing to have thousands of people doing what we did at Tony's wedding. I mean, it'd just be epic.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Ted, thank you very, very much for taking the time. I know we slotted this for 30 minutes, but we double timed it. We're at 6 minutes. So, thank you again, and everybody else who jumped on. Thank you. I know some people couldn't make it, so this video will be YouTubed and be able to. I'll definitely get a copy of you, Ted, and and we'll looking forward to starting.
Did you take a screenshot, Mike?
I did.
Screenshot.
I already did. I got that. It's all
hopefully not when I had my wine in my hand.
Did you have it with your wine holding it?
I got it earlier. So, but anyway, Ted, thank you again. I'm going to stop the recording, and awesome stuff. I'm so psyched for this. And this
great, man. Thank you guys all very much, and we'll see you on social media, if not virtually somewhere soon.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, Ted.
All right.
Madison, good night.
I will.
Everyone.